having a Vietnamese breakfast. This place. Iced coffee. There's coffee, condensed milk, and ice. Watch out! Three-point turn. Yeah. Have them for later. Actually doing it. Footscray Saigon Market.
Rest in peace, little Saigon.
What is that?
It's the Central Deborah mine in Bendigo, one of the main tourist attractions, and it was an important mine that lasted for nearly 100 years. And you can do tours down into it and see.
So that's the mine shaft.
That's the poppet head, they call it.
Oh, so you
that's
can go down
shaft,
on the lift.
and then you go down the lift in the shaft down into the
wow.
mine.
We'll go look at that tomorrow.
Yeah, you see with them with the hard hacks and all that sort of stuff. And you see where they did all the, their chemistry and whatever to geology and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So it's all about geology and
Wow.
and they're the trams that go to it. I haven't been there for ages.
30 to 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Level 2, how are you today? You good? Yeah. It's a nice day out there. It's still a good day to go on the ground though. Has anybody done this tour before? No. Well, you have. Was I your tour guide?
Pardon?
Was I your tour guide when you did the tour? No, that's all right. That's all I'm worried about. So long as it wasn't me, I'm happy. Have we got any miners or ex-miners in the group? Any geologists? Oh, it wasn't for you down the back. I could make up whatever I wanted to, couldn't I? Now the way that the tour works is we start by watching the video. It's going to show you the safety things to be aware of coming underground with me today. Once we've done that, we move outside. I'll give you a quick introduction to some early gold rush history in Bendigo, then we go underground because that's what you want, it's what I want. We want to get underground, don't want to spend time talking at the surface. So we'll get underground quickly. But to start off with, we watch the video.
Welcome to Central Deborah Gold Mines.
Sorry about that.
Did you know that the Central Deborah is just one of over 5,500 gold mines which operated in Bendigo during the gold rush?
929 kilograms of gold was extracted from this mine. We're going to take you underground to see exactly where that gold came from, how it was extracted, and what life as a gold miner was really like.
Safety is important, and we follow the same safety regulations as a fully operational gold mine. So let's take a few minutes to prepare for a fun but safe adventure.
Make sure you go before the tour starts. If you have an underlying health condition that we should be made aware of, or if you're feeling unwell, please let your tour guide know. And grab your camera. You can take as many photos as you like. And tag us at Central Deborah Gold Mine.
Something shade over here for me, crew. This was officially discovered here in Bendigo in 1851 in the Bendigo Creek, a kilometre down the road in a suburb of Bendigo called Golden Square by a couple of farmers' wives. That's what started Bendigo's gold rush, and within 6 months of that first gold discovery, there was over 20,000 people here. They were looking for alluvial gold to begin with, surface gold, easy to find specks and nuggets you find in creeks and gullies. But within 5 years, most of the good alluvial gold in Bendigo was gone, it was mined out. So what miners in Bendigo did, they followed quartz reefs they'd found at the surface, followed them underground. That's what Bendigo is world famous for, underground quartz mining. That's what we'll look at today. Now, they continuously mined gold in Bendigo for 103 years, from 1851 all the way through until 1954. And in that 103 years, 22 million ounces worth of gold came from underground in this city, which is around about 700,000 kilos. It makes Bendigo, by those numbers, the second largest gold field in Australia, second only to Kalgoorlie in Western Australia. Here in Victoria, Bendigo found twice as much gold as its next closest rival, which is Ballarat. Ballarat found 11 million ounces, Bendigo found 22 million. Not a competitive person, Bendigo's number one. Get around us. This mine, though, Central Depth, we opened up 1939. Closed 1954, only operated 15 years, operated right at the end of that historic mining period in Bendigo. Second last mine in Bendigo to close. Now, before we run away, the big white tower you're standing underneath here, we call this a poppet head, and poppet heads always stand over the top of a mine shaft. There's our mine shaft. Right, the mine shaft was the only way miners could get in and out from underground in the old days. So to do that, they climb into mine cages like that one. There's another one around the corner there. 4 at a time, shoulder to shoulder, lunch boxes on their feet, underground to work they'd go. Now obviously we have doors in the cages now, but in the old days there were no doors in those cages. They were open-sided. You kept your elbows tucked in going underground to work back then. Mine cages are attached to the winding cables. They go to the top of the poppet head over the large wheels that run at the top. They're called sheave wheels or winding wheels. And you can see those cables drop all the way down onto the winding engine in the engine room. The winding engine was the most important piece of equipment we had because it was the only way you could raise or lower those mine cages in and out from underground. It was a little bit before. That's enough of the surface stuff. If you want a proper idea of mining life, let's get down the dark, all right? Down this way. Down this way we go. Okay, you saw the video, you're all wearing helmets. Helmets stay on the whole time. They don't come off for any reason. If they do fall off by accident, that's okay. Pick them back up, put them back on, but don't take them on and off on purpose, please. Keep them on the whole time. Helmets will have dials on the back. You saw that in the video. Handicap will have one. If you need help with your helmet, come and see me. Helmets on. So the lift we're going to go underground in today is our Alley Mac lift. It's going to take us 90 seconds to get to level 2. We went underground in the old mine cage you saw at the surface. It only takes 20 seconds to get to level 2. So this mine cage is nice and slow and relaxing for you, right? Nice and calm. The old mine cages used to move so quickly. I had flick grease and oil off the top of those sheave wheels all over the buildings over the other side of the change rooms there. Get all over the washing of the little old lady that used to live behind the mine. She complained so much that they had to make sheave wheel guards at the top there to stop all that grease and oil flicking all over her buildings. Right? But if we stayed in this mine cage for the same amount of time as we spent in an old mine cage, right, we'd be at the bottom of the mine by then. 90 seconds is all it took to get to the level 17 of this mine. Right? So this thing today is going nice, slow, relaxed. Now this shaft we're going down in right now, we actually call this a rise. It's because they made it from the bottom going up, and they put the rise in the mid-1980s, purely so we could take tourists to level 2, which is why I don't have anything else more interesting to tell you about. Alright, 90 seconds is an awkward amount of time. It's like when you put something in a microwave for a minute and a half. You don't know whether to watch it or go away and do something else, but I've got nowhere else to take it, so we're just going to ride this out. The third thing you will notice though, right, it is wet and damp underfoot at times, and that is normal. There's a lot of groundwater under Bendigo, and groundwater was the main reason a lot of Bendigo's deep mines closed. Right, because those mines back then couldn't afford to get the water out. Not because they didn't know how to, they just couldn't afford to. Okay? So groundwater always has been and always will be a problem in Bendigo mining. But you crew don't have to worry, because I've got big electric pumps down on level 4 that do the hard work for you. Right? You've got nothing to worry about on level 2. Not in this one, no. Not in this one. Down to the broke away from me there. Hey, Joe. Standing over here in front of me, nice big semicircle. Righto. You're now 61 metres underground. 200 feet. Same height as a 22-storey building. That's how far underground you are. Behind me is the mine shaft we talked about quickly at the surface. Now the mine shaft at Central Deborah is 422 metres deep. It's got 17 levels in it. That sounds like a long way. It's not. Not by Bendigo standards, like I was talking to you up there at the surface. This is a baby mine by Bendigo standards. The deepest mine, like I was telling you, is the Victoria Quartz mine on Victoria Hill, and that mine was 1,406 metres deep, at 37 levels in it, was the deepest mine in the world at one point. So it's a baby mine you're in today. But don't worry, I've got plenty of gold I'm going to show you later on. I'll show you the good stuff, all right? But just remember, Bendigo has the biggest collection of deep shafts of anywhere in the world. Okay? Now your mine shaft is broken up into 4 different compartments, and you can see them all across the front just here. These middle 2 compartments are your winding and haulage compartments. Those are the compartments mine cages moved up and down in, carrying men and equipment like the mine truck over there in and out from underground. Everything that came in and out from underground came via mine cages in these 2 little compartments. The compartment over this side looks like it's half boarded up. We call that the smoke box, and acts like a chimney. It sucks air out. That's good. Helps air circulation, and that's important because at the end of every shift, miners use the blast rock apart with explosives. Creates dust and fumes. Your smoke box would help draw the dust and fumes out, so it was safer for the next miners coming underground. And the last compartment was the one over the other side. That's the ladderway. The ladderway is how miners climbed out from underground when they had to. Usually that was in case of emergency. Alright, but sometimes your mine cages wouldn't work. Mine cages controlled by the winding engine. Our winding engine was built in 1896, and this is the 5th different mine it's worked on. Every now and then it gave itself a rest, a breather. Right, so that's when miners were going to use ladders as well. So from here on level 2, might take 15 minutes to climb back up to the surface, and that's not bad. Right, there's 17 levels in the mine though, so from level 10 and below, a miner was looking at a climb closer to 2.5 hours. That was after he finished an 8-hour mine shift. He didn't get paid to climb ladders. He climbed out for free, and he carried out any equipment he took down with him at the start of his shift, like a lunch bag. He carried that out with him as well. Not my idea of fun. I know I've climbed those ladders before. I climbed to level 10 before it was flooded, climbed back out again. It didn't take me 2.5 hours, but I hadn't worked an 8-hour mine shift. I wasn't carrying anything, and they definitely paid me. I'm not climbing ladders for free, I promise you. Your ladderway helps with air circulation as well. Naturally draws air into the mine, and that's how we control our airflow. It's all controlled naturally by the 4 compartments here. No pumps, no fans, it's natural. Now your shaft is all lined with timber as well. That's red gum from up near the Murray River. Use red gum because when red gum becomes wet and stays wet, it stays strong. Right? And as you can see, and here, the shaft is the wettest part of the mine. Right? So that's why they use red gum in there. Keep it strong, keep it sucking. Last thing about the shaft is your communication. There were no telephones down here back then. Miners Morse code. Okay, so the miner underground pulled the knocker line, ring the bell, depending on the code, miner driver up there knew where the miner was and what he wanted to do. That's how they communicate. These days, we just got red electric buttons on every level. That's a bit easier. Right, there are telephones underground now as well, but the further underground you go, it gets hotter, it gets wetter, it gets more humid. Phones break all the time, so buttons like these are important to us, because if I don't work with climb ladders, then I don't want to do that. I've never seen someone come out of a ladderway dry or happy. It's not a fun place to be in there, I promise you. One last thing in this area before we move on. The area that you're all standing in does have a name. Right, we call this area the plat. Every level has a plat. Right, it's just a big area off the front of the mine shaft here, big enough for us to skid the mine truck around in the middle, skid plates, or store equipment against the wall. It's an old Cornish term, plat. It means platform. Right, there's lots of Cornish terms in Australian mining. The Cornish have a big influence on Australia's mining history. So by the end of the tour today, you will notice quite a few different Cornish techniques and nicknames. Shows you that Cornish impact. Any quick questions here before we move on? There you go. Down this way. Yeah, something that we're going to talk about rocks. Who'd have thought? Talk about rocks in a mine. Crazy.
Only gold is being mined here, or?
Bendigo is what I call gold or nothing country. Right? The only thing in quantity worth mining was gold. A lot of places around the world where you find gold, you'll find other minerals associated with it, like in South Australia, for example, where they mine gold, they also find massive amounts of copper. Right? So those copper mines in South Australia pay their bills with the gold they find, and they make their profit off their copper. Happy days for them. Right? Bendigo, gold or nothing else in quantity here. But we had lots of it. So it's okay. Now, the reason Bendigo was a successful gold-bearing area is because of its rock structures. What Bendigo has are called saddle reefs, and it's the particular type of saddle reef Bendigo has that really makes it successful. Nova Scotia in Canada has a similar saddle reef structure to Bendigo, but outside of that, not too many other places around the world have what Bendigo has. We're lucky. So what happened was, 480 million years ago, this is the bottom of your ocean. Right, layers of sand and silt built up on top of each other, and over time they hardened into rock. All right, sandstone and slate. All right, the majority of the rock under Bendigo was either sandstone or slate. Fast forward 450 million years ago, compression in the Earth's surface from the east and west slowly over time squashed those flat layers of rock together. So instead of having your flat layers of rock, the rock under Bendigo was forced into big waves like this. Like a big sheet of corrugated iron is a good way of looking at it. And that helps to try and explain why the main gold-bearing part of Bendigo's goldfield was 15 kilometres north-south, but only 4 or 5 kilometres east-west. Now, the parts of your folds that move up on angles like this we call anticlines. Right? The parts that slope down and away we'll call synclines. And most of your good gold, not all of it, but most of it, was usually found towards the top of those folds, in the anticlines. That's because in the folding process, gaps opened up. It allowed space for something called silica from deep in the Earth's surface to be forced up under pressure. Silica was a superheated liquid. It carried gold and other minerals with it, and it filled those gaps. When the silica cooled and then hardened into a white rock we know as quartz. That's what miners look for. They look for those quartz reefs, because underground in Victoria, gold is only found in quartz reefs. So to find gold, you have to find a quartz reef first. So what do? Sink a mine shaft like that one. First tunnel they dig is what you're standing on right now. We call this a cross cut. It goes across your layers of rock. Then we get to a point where we change direction, dig a tunnel in a north-south direction. We call it a drive. I like to think we're driving into the rock, driving after the gold. So we don't call them tunnels. We call them cross cuts and drives. But basically, the reason Bendigo was successful is because our saddle reefs are predictable here. They sit one on top of the other on top of the other, like big sheets of corrugated iron sitting on top of each other. All right? Usually those reefs were spaced out 25, 30, 40 metres apart. So when a miner went underground in Bendigo and found a quartz reef, he knew if he went down again, eventually he'd find another one, and another one, and another one. That's how you can sink a mine shaft that's 1,406 metres deep. Just keep going down. And that's predictable mining. That makes it easier mining, because you know where to go. Half the battle of mining was knowing where to dig. Saddle reefs in Bendigo showed miners exactly where they had to be. So we like them here. Right, they're good. And if all that talk about rock goes over your head, all you really need to remember is that the white rock is good and the other rock is bad. That's a nice short version for you. Any rock questions? I've done this talk with geologists in the group. There's nothing more nerve-wracking than talking about rocks to geologists. I promise you. Right, down this way we go. And a French geologist down here, once the more excited he got, the more French he spoke, and the less I understood. He's probably giving me really good information too. Bob in here, take a seat for me. Right. Been a hard walk, 50 metres so far. Take a seat. Most cross cuts for 50 metres long usually, not really, but still be usually. I reckon a few of you probably guessed what this area was used for. A bit of a lunch room, smoker room. Miners call this a crib room. Crib's one of those old Cornish terms. It means light meal or lunch. Miners have meal breaks underground. Work an 8-hour mine shift and spend every minute of those 8 hours underground for two very good reasons. Reason number one, efficiency. Mining's about getting as much rock out from underground as quick as possible. If you have lunch down here, it means as soon as you finish eating, straight back to work. Efficiency, reason number one. Reason number two is to stop people stealing gold. The more times you move in and out of a mine, the more chance you've got to sneak a piece of gold out, hide it at the top and not get caught. Stay underground for 8 hours, you've got less opportunity. Which is why there was a second way they tried to stop people stealing gold. It wasn't the surface, it's in the dirty change room. In the dirty change room worked a man called the rag picker. Right? Rag picker's job. Go through every miner's clothes as soon as he got out from underground. No questions asked, make sure there's no gold in there. I check his boots, make sure there's no gold in his boots. His ears, his nose, have a talk to the miner, make sure there's no gold in his mouth behind his teeth. Big, beautiful beard like mine, and stuff too. Comb that out, make sure there's no gold in there. Go through the miner's hair, everything. Right? Showers in the change rooms, no doors on the showers in the change rooms. You had to have a shower after your shift so the rag picker could watch the miner wash and make sure he hadn't tried extra hard to sneak gold out. Right? People think I've made that up, I haven't. I'm not telling you the rag picker was popular, because he wasn't. Right? But he had an important job he had to do, because if you did get caught stealing gold, you were going to get sent to prison. You didn't just lose your job, you went to jail. It was serious. The gold down here belonged to mining companies. Miners just got paid to get it out for them, exactly like it is working in a mine now. There's one last way you can stop a miner from stealing gold though. Pay him well. So the basic weekly wage here at Central Deborah was above average for the time. Okay, so 1952 as an example, the minimum wage a miner working underground could earn here was £12 a week. It's above average. On today's money, it equates to a little bit over $800 a week Australian. It's not too bad, but a lot of miners were on what we call the contract or piecework system. So it means they got paid for the amount of rock they pulled out. So good miners could earn 2 to 3 times that basic weekly wage. So guys who weren't on contracts are going to be more tempted to still go. It's nice and dark down here too. It's pitch black underground without light. Your eyes don't adjust to it. Early days they just used carbide lamp. It's called the Bendigo bucket lamp. So at the start of every shift, miner would take a canister like this one to the carbide room, which is at the surface, fills it up with a man-made rock called calcium carbide. Now these canisters have a tiny hole in them towards the top, really small. Right? Fill your bucket up with water, drop your canister into the bucket of water. Water drips through the small hole, mixes with the rock, and it creates a gas. The gas is called acetylene. It's the same gas that you use in welding. Right? Gas comes up the spout, light it with a match, and you had a light that was 15 times brighter than the candle. This is the light we used down here for the entire 15 years the mine operated. Even when battery-powered cap lamps came along in the 40s, we were using these. Because your flame there, fantastic way to check air quality. Right, the flame dims, miners know they need better air circulation where they're working, but they also leave fuses on explosives at the end of every shift that blast the rock to bits. Light your fuses with these as well. Miner's toilet, nickname for everything underground, so we don't call this the toilet, the nickname for this is the thunderbox. Right? Excellent way to steal gold. Alright, so what they do, get a piece of cloth, gold in the cloth, wrap it up, throw it in the thunderbox can. When the can was full, youngest miner underground usually, the 16-year-old mining apprentice, if you had one of those, it would have been his job to empty it. Take the can up to the surface, empty the contents of the can all over the mullock, the big pile of waste rock up there. That's all they used to do with it. And I guess that's where the miner comes along afterwards and he tries to find his nugget. That's the best way I've got to describe it. It's a gross way to steal gold, but it was a very successful way to steal gold in Thunderbox. Now you can see there we turned a corner. Moved off our cross cut. Moved onto a drive. Getting towards the centre of our anticlinal fold, we're going to find a quartz free from gold in it soon. Miners call this area centre country. And I've stopped you here to point out the wooden structure because it's an important piece of safety. This is what miners would build when they felt the rock was unsafe and they needed protection. So in Bendigo, we call these structures timber sets. They had different names for different goldfields though. Over towards Ballarat, for example, they like to call them talking timbers. But here in Bendigo, we just call them timber sets. Alright, so they're made of legs on the side here. Big guy running across the top is your cap, and the boards that run along the roof or run along the walls, doing the hard work, catching rocks whenever they fell. We call those boards lagging. Alright, now you never use nails when you built these either. It's wet, it's horrible down here, nails rust. Your job as a miner was to get rock out, not to replace rusty nails. So what they used instead are the big joins on the corners. Alright, they're called joggle joints. Because of that moisture, makes the timber swell, makes the joints tight. Coupled with wedges that went in between the roof of the mine and the lagging that would squash everything down. Nice strong structure that requires basically no maintenance. And this was local timber. Right, don't use red gum like you do on that mine shaft. Just use whatever trees were closest to the mine to build these. So in Bendigo, the local timber's either ironbark or grey box. If you've ever seen any pictures of goldfields, there's never any trees in those pictures. They're all down here, all propping up mines. And if they weren't propping up mines, they were being fed into boilers so they could run compressors and get that compressed air down. That's why there's a hill out the back of the university in Bendigo called One Tree Hill. That requires no explanation from me. Quick look over the roof. Not a lot of support here. I don't need support everywhere underground in Bendigo because of how hard Bendigo's rock is, but it did mean at the start of every shift, miners check the rock anyway, make sure it was safe. Right? That technique's called sounding, or sounding the back. You always nick down the roof if you mind the back. Because over in Cornwall, where they was digging a rock off the floor, the back was always pointed to the roof of the mine. So what they do, if you have a bar like this one, hit it in the rock, listen to the noise it makes. That's it. Right, I might use your pinch bar here and smash the weak rock out. It's called barring down or scaling. It is something we still do. If that doesn't work, that builds in sets like you looked at, or a more modern mining, it's where they're going to put in rock bolts. Okay, so all around the walls, you see square metal plates, circles in the middle of them. Those are rock bolts. They're a modern way we keep the rock nice and safe. Right? You'll notice them the whole way around the loop today. I'll explain how they work in just a minute. First things first though, I'm going to hit the rock for you and show you the different noises miners were listening for. There's that nice solid sound. We're happy with that, right? Thumbs up. It's right above my head. I want it to be good. There's that echoey hollow sound, and that's why there's a rock bolt there, right? Don't worry, mate. Can't do that without a rock bolt. Too much paperwork involved, right? Too much paperwork involved. Now, timber sets took a long time to build, so when rock bolts came along, it made life a lot easier for miners. So the type of rock bolt we use down here now are these things, right? They're called split sets. Developed in the US in the 70s. They are made of spring steel, all right? Spring steel naturally wants to stay open, which is why there's a long gap that runs down the front, all right? So what the miner does is he gets his drill, drills a hole in the rock. It's a bit skinnier than your split set. It's much longer, and using the same drill, drives the split set into the hole, all right? Smaller hole closes the gap at the front. Spring steel still wants to stay open, so it pins itself against the walls of the hole it's been drilled through, and it pins those layers of rock together. Each one of these split sets can hold up to 7 tons worth of weight. Okay, so all around the walls, you see the square metal plates, circles in the middle of them. It's the end of a split set, roughly this long, holding up to 7 tons. Now you can see we've got mesh along the wall here as well. Mesh does the same job lagging does. It just catches scats wherever they fall, those rocks. And if we really wanted to, we'd spray it all with concrete. It's called shotcrete. I'm sure some of you noticed the rise we came down in today was shotcrete. If you didn't notice, you've got 90 seconds on the way out to memorise it. You haven't missed much. It's just concrete sprayed all over the wall. But unless anyone's got any questions, it's goal time. Goal o'clock. Goal o'clock. Goal o'clock. What we have here is a very small quartz reef, a very small quartz reef. We're getting towards the centre of our anticlinal fold. It's the part of the reef miners call the cap. It's usually the thickest part of the reef, and this is a small one. Not every quartz reef got mined though. Had to be profitable to mine. Okay, so that means for every tonne of quartz they pulled out from underground back then, they had to find at least 10 grams worth of gold in it. 1 tonne worth of quartz is 2 mine trucks filled with the white rock. 10 grams worth of gold's about the size of the top of your little finger. And that's it. That's all they had to find per tonne for a reef to be considered profitable. So 15 years worth of mining at Central Deborah, they removed 64,000 tonnes worth of quartz. They removed 40,000 tonnes worth of mullock, your waste rock, your grey, sandstone and slate you can see in there for a grand total of 929 kilos worth of gold, a little bit under a tonne. We weren't considered a very profitable mine back then, even though that amount of gold now is worth around 90 million Australian dollars. We weren't considered very profitable back then, though. Now, I can hear you thinking, Baz, if this wasn't a very profitable mine, why have you got a nice amount of gold here? And the answer is the old-timers didn't find this part of the reef when it was operational. The closest they got was 10 metres on the other side of the wall up the front, about a week's worth of mining away. Right? World War II at the time. Short staff, ankle-deep water, no sign of the quartz reef. They gave up. They moved down to level 6 and they never came back to level 2. Can also hear you thinking, but Baz, if you guys came along afterwards and you found this part of the reef, how come you didn't take the gold then? And the answer is there's more money in tourism. There's a small amount of gold I've got here. If I take the gold out, I've got nothing to show you. So I left it in there for you. Now your gold, if you haven't noticed already, it's got that nice, rich, yellow-looking colour to it. But yeah, it seems pretty small. In actual fact, the gold you're looking at here is considered really big for underground quartz mining. Usually what they were looking for was so small, so fine, that the only way they could see it is by crushing the quartz up into sand and releasing it. So the fact that we can see the gold here, this is big gold for underground quartz mining. The problem I usually have though, is that when I start talking to people about gold, they start thinking about big gold nuggets like the welcome stranger, right? Big, beautiful things the size of your head. That's alluvial gold. It's surface gold. And even though alluvial nuggets could be big like that, there's just not that many of them like it. Far more gold trapped underground in hard rock like this. And that's where 80% of Bendigo's gold came from. Hard rock, exactly like you're looking at here. It's not as romantic as pulling a nugget the size of your fist from the creek. I get that. Right, there's just far more of it down here though. One last thing there to keep an eye out for in the window. Someone spotted it already. It's called iron pyrite. Does anyone know the other name for iron pyrite?
Iron sulfide.
Oh, fool's gold is the one I was looking for. Right, fool's gold. Now, there's a very small amount of gold in fool's gold. Right, varies from goldfield to goldfield. Right, but in Bendigo, it was maybe 3% if you got lucky. All right, but to get your gold out of your fool's gold, you've got to use nasty chemicals like cyanide, and that was never something this mine did. All we did was collect it up and sell it off to someone else who could be bothered trying. That's the best way I've got of describing it. So your fool's gold there is sparkly, it's shiny, it's pretty. There's lots of it all over the back wall up here as well. Don't fall for it. It's that rich yellow colour you're chasing, not that sparkly, shiny, pretty stuff like you'll notice in the back wall up the front. Get up there. Have a look at your gold. Have a look at your fool's gold. Once you've done that, move on down this way. All right? And we can move on from there. Have a good look at your gold though. Have a look at the colour of your quartz reef as well. It's not plain white. There's lots of colours in it. Greys, blacks, browns, oranges.
Gold in the walls.
You can look at it that way. The other thing to think of, right? Okay, rather than this is very dangerous because there's lots and lots of laser fish. Right? I want you to think of it like another way. You need to replace something. It's still protected, and you don't have to worry about it being dangerous when you're unprotected by removing it. The safest way.
Some people explore the
Deep parts? Yeah. I've been down as low as level 10. At the moment, though, the water level's just below level 4.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so level 3, you can access level 3 from here. All right, down some ladders, walk down an incline down to level 3. Level 3 with tours at some point in the future. All right, but at the moment, it's only this level. I can see those other levels. I just can't take you there. I can't take you there. All right, the mine shaft though. That's your only way in and out. That's why they use different timber on the mine shaft, because that area has to. Mine? What do you determine as big? You want death?
Yeah.
Right, death. There was one death.
Yeah,
One death in this mine. There was four major incidents in this mine, and only one of them resulted in death.
Okay. Yeah.
So there you go.
Reasonable.
That's okay. Happy with that?
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah. How do you work?
Yellow dusty stuff on the wall at the front here is sulphur. By the way, sulphur makes the Bendigo Creek stink. Makes it smell like rotten eggs. Right, so if you walk through Roslyn Park in the middle of Bendigo, right, the creek runs next to it, the creek stinks. That's the reason. It has nothing to do with the bats that live in the park in the middle of town. The bats have only been in Bendigo 15 years. That creek was stinking long before the bats showed up. Right, don't get me wrong, they don't help and they're not popular, but it's not their fault. I'll stick up for the bats. Good for pollination, I'm told, bats. There's a list of things I don't know much about, and bats are right up the top. Right on the top of the list of things I don't know much about. Any quick questions here before we roll on? I know. Down this way we'll head. My favourite part of the tour coming up.
How many kilometers or?
In this mine?
Yeah.
11. 11 kilometres worth of glass touch in this mine.
All the mine or just the
The whole mine. The whole mine's 11. The thing to remember about Bendigo's mines, alright, the mine leases were very small. Right? So the mine lease areas were 500 metres by 500 metres. That's a very small area. And because of saddle reefs, right, all you have to do is keep going down. So you don't have lots of long tunnels going out for kilometres and kilometres because they're more deeper than they are, which is why Bendigo has that largest collection of deep shafts of anywhere in the world, because they can just keep going down and it's okay. Did they connect up with other mines? Yes. They did connect up with other mines and other levels, but that was a deliberately done thing because it increases airflow in both of those mines. It allows air to go down your mine shaft, travel along that level, go into their mine, and then it goes up their air shaft, and that improves airflow in both mines. So it was an organised, coordinated thing for mines to connect with each other. All right, it wasn't an accidental thing where they attack each other with weapons and stuff. There's nothing like that. Righto, rock under Bendigo is 5 to 7 times harder than concrete. You can't break it open with a pick. That's not how it works down here. The only way we can make these areas we've walked on is by drilling holes in the rock, fill those holes with explosives and blow it all to pieces. It's called drilling and blasting. Every step you've taken today was created with this method. Right? Early days, this is the technique they used to drill the holes. Hammer and tap technique, Cornish technique, quarter turn at a time. Chip away a hole in the rock, big enough to fit explosives in. Also used in parts of the Harz Mountains in Germany in the old days too. Sort of looks a little bit like this in action. Now, I've been doing these tours for a while. That hole hasn't got any deeper. Alright, so one man can do the job, how easy to do it in a team. So what they used to do is have one man hold that tap against the wall doing quarter turns, one or two other miners with those hammers, swing as hard as they could. Working in a team, 1 metre hole, 4 hours.
Cool.
You need at least 12 holes for an effective blast pattern. It's a slow process, and that's what miners did underground in the old days until they had enough space to get compressed air lines down so you could run big pneumatic drills like these ones, your big compressed air run drills. Right, so your big green guy here in the corner, this is what we call a stroker or a reciprocator. These types of drills hit the goldfields in the mid to late 1860s. This particular drill was built in Bendigo in the early 1880s. So it's over 140 years old. It weighs 150 kilos and can drill a 1 metre hole in 40 minutes. Heaps quicker. A massive problem with it though. Right, kicks up a heap of dust. Dust fill the air, miners breathe it in. What they're breathing in contains silica, natural type of glass. Settle on their lungs, and they develop something called silicosis, or miner's complaint. The life expectancy of a miner who was using a drill like that was 40 years of age if he was lucky. That's why they nicknamed them widowmakers. All those little pieces of glass they breathed in ripped their lungs to pieces. Alright? Silicosis was the biggest killer across the goldfields at the time, more than any other cause of death, particularly in Bendigo. You do have to give them credit though, because they figured out that all you had to do to get rid of dust was to have a man standing here with a hose of water pointed at the hole. Only took them roughly 20 years to figure that out. This drill though is my favourite. This is our drifter drill. This is the drill we used at Central Deborah for the entire 15 years the mine operated. Now drifter drills came along in the early 1900s, but what you need to know about them is that the drill steel is hollow. So that means that as the miner was drilling, he could pump it full of water and get rid of the dust. He turns it into mud. It's called slurry, so they eliminated the dust problem. All that water running through there also means your drill tip stays cool, so it stays sharper for longer. It's more efficient, it's more effective. This drill can drill a 1.5 metre hole in 15 minutes. I'm going to turn it on for you. But it's exceptionally loud. You're looking at about 106.1 decibels. So my recommendation to you is block your ears. Fingers in your ears as best as you can. Righto. Ready, set. I love that thing. Really gets my step count up. I'm pretty happy with that. That's getting close to 10 seconds. Imagine doing that for 20 holes, 15 minutes each, every shift, no hearing protection. I know earmuffs, no earplugs, nothing like that. Most miners went deaf from using these all the time. You have the problem with your hands sitting on there rattling and shaking. You got nerve damage in your hand as well, something called white knuckle. Your hands went numb. So even though they eliminated the death element of using drills, there are other health concerns still associated with them, unfortunately. Lucky last drill is this guy down the front here. If you stand against the wall there, so the people behind you can see, or you can swing yourselves around actually, swing yourselves around. This is our air leg drill. It's a more modern drill. This one came along in the 1950s, developed over there in Sweden, only weighs 50 kilos, so it can be moved around and operated by one man at a time. Still runs on compressed air. Still got a hollow drill steel, so you can pump it full of water and get rid of dust. And your air leg drill could drill a 2 metre hole in 5 to 10 minutes. It's more efficient, it's more effective. And unfortunately in the 50s it was too expensive as well. There's a handful of really good reasons the mine was forced to close. And one of those reasons is they were using old outdated equipment like drifter drills. They had been able to purchase air legs in the 50s, happy days, operate for longer, just could not afford them at the time. Still used in modern mining at times as well. Small projects admittedly, but they are used. Here at Central Deborah, we want to put more split sets into the wall. The air leg drill will be the drill to do that. Right, so it's handy for us to have. Into a truck, take it away to a stamping battery, right, crushed up, crush that quartz up into sand to release all that gold. Right, there's traps in those stamping batteries that collects up the gold. Alright, those things ran 24 hours a day, 6 days a week, stomping and stamping. Alright, everything only got turned off on a Saturday night. No one in Bendigo slept on a Saturday night because they were so used to that crashing and thumping noise of stamping batteries running all the time. And on Sunday, right, the day where there was not supposed to be any miners at work or anything like that, that's when they collect up all those materials, melt them down, and hopefully collect up your gold and take enough to the bank so you get the miners paid.
There must be huge piles of waste, right?
There would have been at the time. All right. What the council liked to do though is they came along and they collect up the mullock on those waste heaps. They crush it up a little bit finer and they turn it into road base. So the mullock had a secondary use to it. Okay. Right. They were able to crush it up and turn it into road base. The quartz sand at that time there was no real secondary use for it. These days you can put quartz sand into microchips and watches and all that sort of stuff. But the arsenic is naturally occurring. It's naturally occurring within the rock. Alright, and if you keep your arsenic encapsulated, alright, it's safe. What does mining do? Alright, blows all the rock to pieces, exposes the arsenic to the groundwater, which is why the groundwater under Bendigo that's pulled up in the bottom of all these mines is full of salt and arsenic. Alright, because that arsenic has been able to be collected and contaminate that groundwater. The stuff that drips from the roof is fine, because there's no mine above us. We're lining up along the walls. We're going to look over in this corner, so it's all now. We're going to look over in this corner here. Right, drilled our holes in the rock. Don't just drill holes where we feel like it. We have to drill them into patterns. Patterns are the most effective way we can blast a rock apart. And the pattern we use here at Central Deborah is this one in the corner. It's called the Bendigo drag cut. It was developed for use here in Bendigo wherever drifter drills we use, like the one I just demonstrated for you, based off a Cornish pattern, of course it was. Now you start off with holes at the top there. They're called back holes. And every half metre down, drill another series of holes until you reach these yellow ones that are angled down towards the floor. They're called cut holes. They're supposed to be miners' waist height. Miners were short fellas in the old days. Last ones you drill out are those ones down there on the floor. They're called lifters. You clean them all out and then you pack them full of explosive. Our explosive of choice was not dynamite, it was gelignite. We used gelignite because it was safer and it was controllable and it wouldn't blast apart unless there was a detonator attached to it. Unlike a lot of early explosives like your dynamite, which could blast apart for no reason at all. Right? You could shake a stick of dynamite too hard and blow your arm off. Right? Drop a stick of dynamite at your feet, you could blow your feet off. We like gelignite. It's safer and it was also stronger as well. Right? 4 sticks of gelignite per hole. Now you see we've got blast cord here as well. Right? We cut the blast cord into different lengths because you need these explosions here to go off one at a time in a very specific order. Right? You want the cut holes to blast down first. Bang! Creates a weakness in the rock. It gives us an area for those explosives above it to blast into. Right? Bang, 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 bang. One at a time. Blast up to the back holes. And the last ones to go with your lifters. Right? They pick up and dump all that rocket material into the cross-cut or drive so it's easy for the next crew to clean up. All 16 to 20 tonnes of it. Right? So to set it off, Miner grabs his Bendigo bucket lamp, he lights up his fuses, and then he walks all the way back around to the plat where we started our tour underground. And that's where he stops. Waits, he counts all 20 explosions to make sure they've gone on. If you count 20, beautiful, your job is done. Into the mine cage, home time. You only count 19 or 18, there's been a misfire, something's gone wrong. So what the miner did then, went back to the service anyway, told the next crew's problem. Right, it's not because he's being lazy, it's because if you come back too soon after a misfire that blows up the lake, people got hurt. Plenty of time between each shift for everything to settle down. Next crew knew how to handle the problem. Safety first. Right, as we talked about before, there was only one death in this mine and it had nothing to do with an explosive accident, so safety is important. Last pattern I'm going to show you is the one in the middle. This is your burnt cut. It's a more modern pattern, this one. Right? You can use an air leg drill to drill this pattern if you want to. Right? Don't use explosive to create the weakness in the rock anymore. Just use a bigger drill bit. Drill the weakness into the face like you can see in the middle. Alright? Around the weakness, that's where you drill your smaller holes. Diamond, square shaped patterns out now till you reach the width and the height of the drive. It's those smaller holes you fill with explosive, and we don't use gelignite anymore either. Right, there's far more modern explosives they use now. The 2 mines on the outskirts of Bendigo use emulsion as their explosive of choice. They don't use blast cord to set it off, they use electric detonators. And they certainly don't just move 50 metres and around the corner and hope for the best, like they used to do in the old days. Alright, safety standards have changed a little bit. The whole mine has to be evacuated when you're blasting these days. Not a bad thing. What we'll do though, get your eyes on the burn cup. I've got it wired up, I've got it ready to go. I'll show you what we're talking about in terms of a pattern or a sequence. Are you ready? Fire in the hole. Starts off nice and small around that weakness, moves further and further out, it's expanding the weakness, and that's the basic principle all blast patterns work on. They're expanding the weakness the miner created in the rock. And they'll blast back as far back as you drill the holes. So the Bendigo drag cut that they used when this was an operational mine, those holes were 1.5 metres. The burn cut behind me that they used in the 80s when they expanded the crosscuts and drives for 2 was 2 metres. And it was never the sound the miners listened to in the old days to count those explosions because they're all deaf. They couldn't hear it. Alright, so they were counting the vibration in the ground from each explosion. That's how they used to count them. The vibrations were strong enough, you could feel them at the surface from time to time, so much so the publican over the road at the National Hotel, he thought he could feel them every now and again, so he knew he had about 30 minutes to have 30 beers lined up on the bar for knock-off time. Early warnings. Always a pub within 200 metres of a pop at Bendigo in the old days. It was a safe business plan. There were more pubs per capita in Bendigo than any other place in Australia at one point. 52 is the magic number. I've got a spot for you. You're going to stand in that corner there. That's the basketball player's spot, that one. First shift? Probably take half a step forward. I've been doing tours recently, I look over and there's someone standing there with water teeming off their helmet and they're just standing there and taking. So I'm cutting out the middle band now. Right? Don't have to stand under the water. Now the question was how many people work per shift? Right, at this mine's peak, you were looking at 7 pairs of miners working underground per shift. Right? They're all spread out over different parts of the mine. And people go, oh, geez, that's not a lot. Right? But when you're working in a space that by that, you've only got a certain amount of space you can fit people in. Right? And you're always spread out over different spots, so you always had a pair, stoping out the quartz reef. Stoping is the term you use when you're getting the ore body from underground. Right? You always got someone sinking the shaft. You've always got a pair putting in the cross cut, putting in a drive, always looking for that next part of the quartz reef, so that when that part of the reef you're mining is exhausted, you've got another quartz reef you're going to go straight to. So you're always pulling out gold. So you're always, hopefully, making money. Okay. Righto. In Australian mining, when you get rid of rock from underground, it's called bogging or bogging out. And at Central Deborah, they use a very specific piece of equipment to do that job. Yeah, shovel. 15 years worth of mining, that's all they use down here to get that rock out from underground. The nickname for these things is the banjo because of the shape of them and the sound they made moving across rocks. Now, miners always worked in pairs. Using banjos, they could fill a mine truck like the one in the corner with 500 kilos worth of rock in 10 minutes. Then they had to push it back to the plat. That could be up to 500 metres away. Get an empty mine truck, push it back again, and keep doing that until they got rid of 16 to 20 tonnes of material. That's before they drilled holes in the rock, before they blasted the rock apart, on top of any other job they did down here, like building timber sets and sounding. That was your 8-hour mine shift every time you were down here. Clear rock, drill holes, blow rock to bits, so the next crew could do the exact same thing. So you can move your cross-cut or drive 1.5 metres a shift. That's how Bendigo got its gold with it. Hard work and effort, there's no getting around it. Big yellow things like these came along and did make life a touch easier for miners though. This is what we call a rocker shovel or a rail bogger. They came along in the late 1930s and they were designed specifically to work in the small space mines like what we had here. Now they ran on compressed air, exactly like the drills. I only need one man to run them. I would have had a platform hanging off the side the operator stood on. There's your controls, bucket there at the front, drive it forward, pick up your rocks, swing your bucket over and you can fill your mine truck up in 2 minutes. It's heaps quicker. Alright? Never used here at Central Deborah for one good reason. Banjos are cheaper. Always comes down to money in the end in mining, and these are heaps cheaper than these things. You've got to remember by the end of the Second World War, there was only 4 mines left operational in Bendigo, and none of them had the cash available at any point to be able to purchase one of these. And even if they did, there was rumours and rumblings that some miners said they were going to refuse to use them, because a lot of miners felt that if you got that machine, someone loses his job, and every miner thought it was him. So they were never used during the historic period of mining in Bendigo. It's here now, because they used it in the 80s when they expanded these cross-cuts and dry spit tools. Just couldn't have had it when they were operational, unfortunately.
How come they didn't have money to buy tools, although they were digging for gold?
Because sometimes if you don't find enough gold, you don't have enough money. And the way that the mines worked in Bendigo, alright, people invested their money. They were the people who owned the mine. So when the mine pulled gold out, investors got paid dividends. It's like working the share market. Right? You want to be paying those dividends out because if you need more money from your investors, they're more likely to give you more money, right? If you've been giving them dividends. Okay, it's just the way that it worked here. Right? They didn't put money aside just in case they needed to buy more equipment. Right? The way that they got the money to buy new equipment was by selling old equipment. No. And unfortunately, when you're running out of mines to sell that equipment to, you've got nowhere to sell it. Right? So you can't raise that money to buy the new equipment.
Yeah, lucky.
There we go. No nonsense. Mines, you don't see exposed rock like we saw today. Right, it's all protected. The Closest to those operational mines to us here in Central Deborah is the Fosterville Gold Mine, which is 30 minutes down the road in that direction. Alright, the Fosterville Gold Mine is what we call a deep decline mine, big 6x6 tunnels. They drive trucks underground now. It's over 1,300 metres deep. It's about 37 degrees at the bottom once you get there. And they've pulled out over 4 million ounces worth of gold from that mine. Humidity is through the roof as well. Canadian owned. Always been Canadian owned. Arguably the cheapest gold mine. Where are you guys visiting from today?
He's from England.
England?
Yeah, I'm local.
Local?
She's from Melbourne.
Melbourne. Oh, you're there everywhere.
Originally,
Yeah. Doing it for a while. Righto.
One big air compressor. And another one. Thank God. Crikey. Bigger than the one you have in your fridge.
Civilization. Gold. We can't get enough of it.
Dirty bloody job, mate, but I suppose someone's got to do it. Mind you, we can make a good quid out of it. You know, we mine a hell of a lot of rock out of this hole. The little bit of glittering stuff we find makes all the difference.
Gold. The golden era. Bendigo. A city built on gold and the rush to discover its hidden treasure. Gold. Hidden beauty. Gold. Gold.
Last year, 1941, he reported gold production of £3.33 million. How much would that be worth in today's money? About $500 million. Wow. Oh, hey, investigator, director of that 20 Bendigo mining company. Would you do a copy?
Gold. The golden era. Bendigo. A city built on gold and the rush to
Some chemistry equipment.
gold.
And a big
The golden
retort
era.
at the back.
A city built on gold and we can't get enough of it.
Dirty bloody job, mate, but I suppose someone's got to do it. Mind you,
Checking to see if they've stolen any gold.
Time